Hi Tom, how are you? I'm not quite sure what's going on. I'm having some technical issues as ever with this. It's never straightforward, so I'm going to have to abandon OBS, I think, and go straight with the YouTube software, which is not ideal, but let's give it a go. So there's a few people coming into the room now. Thanks very much for joining me. I've got to admit I'm a little bit nervous today. So why am I going live this afternoon? I'm going to be doing a fly tying challenge. Now, Brian Smith done his challenge on Friday night at 1 o'clock in the morning my time. So I set an alarm and I got up and I watched it. He's an amazing tyer, absolutely fantastic skills. Now, what the challenge is I sent him 5 synthetic and 5 natural materials, and from those materials he had to tie a dry fly, a streamer, a nymph or a wet fly. Now the rules were simple: you must use the materials that are in the envelope that was sent to each other, and you can use your own hooks, wire, floss, thread, that kind of ancillary sort of stuff. So what I'm going to do, without further ado, is open up the envelope that came from Brian. So let's see what he sent me and what I've got to work with today. So I'm hoping to tie at least the 3 flies within an hour. And that's that. Just throw that rubbish out the way. So I'm very pleased to see right off the bat that I've got a pheasant tail feather. I mean, there's lots of flies you can tie using pheasant tail, so that's a good start, is what I would say. We've got some latex rib. Again, that's a synthetic material. We'll put that to the side. I've got a little packet of feathers here. I'm sure this is not foam blocks tan, which is what it says on the label, but we've got a couple of bits and bobs of feathers. So this is some blue dubbing. I'm not quite sure what I'm going to do with that, but we'll put it to the side. And I've got like a blue ribbon here. Again, that might be a tough ask, but I'll have a little think about that. And we've got some crystal flash pink. I do like a bit of pink, especially for grayling type flies. I'll just put that to the side. We've got some golden stone wild turkey biots, which I've never used myself, but I'll have a wee look at them in a second. There's some hackling, so some a mix of different generic hackles, which is ideal. And I've got some yellow latex. That could be a struggle again, but we'll give it a go. And I've got a packet of, I think it's CDC. So we've got some CDC, and that's what I've got to work with. So I'm kind of pleased. I'm really pleased with the natural materials. The synthetic ones could be a little bit of a challenge, but we'll switch over to the vise and we'll have a look what we can do. So the fly I've got in the vise here was just something that I was doing to while away the time before the start of the live broadcast. So hopefully now we're on the split screen and we're going to make a start to the fly tying. So I think I'll start, as Brian did, with the dry fly. And bad preparation by me, I have not got the dry fly hooks out. I managed to get all the rest of the hooks. And I can't even find the dry fly hooks. Well, we're not off to an auspicious start today. Let me see if they're over here. Here we go. So I've eventually located the dry fly hooks. Now, I'm going to be quite busy, guys. I mean, it was amazing watching Brian doing his live stream on Friday night. He's got a number of moderators in there. His chat's like a chain gun. It just seems to keep going and going and going. But the moderators look after his chat and leave him to do the fly tying, whereas I'm trying to do everything at once, which is not easy. So nice to see you, Nigel. Hi, Chris. A wee cull, yep, that might be something to try. I would like to try and use all the materials I've been sent, but let's see what we've got to start. So I'm using a size 10 Hanak 130, and it's a fine wire dry fly hook. So I'm sure once I get tying, the nerves will go and I'll just be able to get on with it. So we've got the hook in the vise, and the first thing I'm going to do is find my super glue, which I seem to have lost as well. It's not going very well, this. Right. So I often get asked, why are you using super glue instead of wax? And I do use wax. When I'm using normal threads, I use wax. But the thing is, I use Hanak hooks a lot in my tying, and I use these nano silk, the GSP type threads. This one's from Troutline, it's a sumo thread. And if you use this sort of silk with black nickel finished hooks and you only use wax, you're going to be in a world of hurt. The fly will spin on the shank of the hook, and the way I get round that is just putting a little bit of super glue onto the hook. So from the materials that I've been given, I think I'm going to use a little bit of this to start the fly. So it's like pink crinkle flash. Just open up the packet. You can see there, it's just a crinkle flash stuff. And I'm going to take out maybe 2 strands of the crinkle flash. 2 or 3, and then I can put that to the side for the moment, and after each fly I'm going to pause and answer any questions that's required. So what I'm going to create here, I think, is a parachute type fly. So I'm just going to take that in like that, and I'm going to use the crinkle flash as my post. Just going to add some wax to the thread, and then I can come in and take away the excess. And what I'm going to do here is just build my post as I would normally. So usually for parachute style flies I would be using poly yarn to build the post, but on this occasion, just so I can use some of the materials I've been sent, I'm going to use this twinkle. Excuse my fingers while I get the post built. Oh, and I should have mentioned one of the stipulations was you had 1 hour to tie the 3 flies. Now that's more than enough time, but I may pause in between or in the middle just to answer some questions. It made a big difference to my tying using super glue. No more lopsided flies. Yeah, it definitely helps, Nigel. You know, some people don't like it. A lot of the traditional sort of tyers are not keen with super glue. I don't bother. I'm not a stickler for the fly tying rules. I don't care what people call patterns. I just tie what I tie. If folks like it, great. If not, oh well, never mind. So I'm just using a spot of super glue on my post here, and what this will do is make it solid. Make it a great bed for the hackle to go round. So next then, I'm going to add some tailing fibre. So let's see what Brian has sent us. Now Brian Smith, if for those of you that are unaware or been living under a rock for the last year or so, is probably one of the most followed fly tyers on the planet, if not the most followed. And he's not been tying that long, but his skill levels are amazing, and it's a testament to the amount of time and effort that he puts into his tying. So if you've not seen Brian, I'll stick a link in the comments section at some point, and you should go over to his channel and certainly give him a follow. He's got various social channels, TikTok, Instagram and Facebook, and he's recently, I say recently, started uploading to YouTube, but he's already over 100,000 subscribers, which I've got to say I'm a wee bit jealous of, having been at it for around 6 years now. But fair play, he's worked hard, and he's now doing this as a full-time venture. So please, if you've not already subscribed, give him your support and head over there and click the subscribe button. So next then, we're going to add the hackle. I'm not sure about this feather actually, I don't know what it is. I've never seen a feather like that. It looks quite brittle, but it's going to do a job for me on the tailing fibres. Now the other thing I seen was biots. Let's have a look at the biots. Now they're incredibly long. I've never seen biots quite as long as that. Let me just put that over to that. Yeah, so you can see the length of these biots are incredible really. We don't get things like that where I buy my goose biots. But so let's go back to the device. I'm going to take one of these and use it as the body material. So if I can just separate them. Just cut them with my scissors. And I've taken 2, but not to worry. In fact, I've taken 3. I'll just put them to the side. Now, there's 2 sides to a biot. You can see there's a natural curve to the feather, and there's an underside. So I'm going to take the outside. I want the outside on the body of the fly. So I'll bring that round up to where the tail is, and I can catch that to there now. I'll just locate my hackle pliers, and I'm going to come and grab the biot. Now if I am smart about this, I'll use the function on device and be able to wrap the biot just by using the rotation. So as I said, Brian's already done his part, and I watched it live. Sadly, while he was doing it, he was listening to music in the background, and YouTube doesn't like that apparently, and they've given him a copyright strike. So sadly you won't be able to see the flies he tied in real time. But what he is going to do is he's going to do videos, separate videos, whether he'll do it in short form or long form I'm not sure, but he is going to retie the flies for his own channel. So I've cut that biot in, and I'm just going to come in with the scissors and take that away. Let me have a look, see if I'm happy with that. It's quite a pleasing looking body. I think it could suffer a little coat of UV resin. Guys, please, if you have any questions, just stick them into the chat there, and I'll do my best to get to them. So biots are generally pretty tough materials, but just for belts and braces, I'm going to add a little bit of resin just to make sure once fish have taken the fly that it survives longer than a couple of fish. So, so far so good. I think that's looking not too bad. It's a fly, you know, I wouldn't tie a fly that I wouldn't fish with. Well, that's a lie actually. I've tied lots of flies that I wouldn't fish with. They end up in a jar, never to be fished with. So just cure that off. Okay, so next thing then, I'll just put this by it. Try and keep it tidy. I've got very limited space to work with here, and I'm trying to keep things as tidy as I can. So next then, we're going to grab the hackling, and I'll get a few of these feathers out and see what's going to best suit. That looks quite nice. Just maybe a wee bit too thin. There's a bigger one. Is that better? Yeah. I think that might work. But I do like the colours on this. I don't know how well, if I hold the feathers up that's been sent, you can see. So I've got like a plain sort of natural ginger, and then there's the barred one, which I quite like, but the feather's not big enough for the fly I've decided to tie. So I'm going to use this bigger one here. There's a nice colouring at the top though. You can see that colouring at the top. But again, it might be a wee bit small. I'm going to have to come down the bottom here. Now with these generic feathers, they obviously come from a very high grade cape, which I don't own any high grade capes, but I have used them in the past. So what I want to do is just strip away some of the fibres, like so, and I want the good side of the feather, which is there, to be downwards to the water. So I'm going to tie that in like that. I'll catch it at the bottom. Bear with me. Yeah, it's a bit, I don't know why I've chosen to tie a parachute fly. It's quite an awkward thing to do, especially when you're live on YouTube. There we go, just about got that into place. Now what I'd like to have seen in the envelope was some natural squirrel or rabbit, something like that, which I haven't got to work with here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some of the CDC, just grab some of the feathers, and just off camera here you won't be able to see me, but what I'm doing is I'm going to rip the fibres off the stem. In fact, I could maybe do it on camera here. Just going to rip these off. I don't need very much. It's simply just to create a thorax for my parachute fly here. So this was a madcap idea really. I don't know what I was thinking when I thought of it, but I just thought that the point of the exercise, the challenge if you like, is that, you know, a lot of people say, well, it's easy for you to tie flies, you've got all this kit, and you know, you've got a vast array selection to choose from, and that's true to a certain point, but what I want to show here is that you don't need to have a vast selection or choice to tie flies. You can just simply work with what small amount of kit that you've got, depending on what you want to tie. So we'll just dub that on, like so. What I want to do is keep it back from the eye. There we go. And I'm going to get the same amount behind here. And what I'll do later, maybe later in the week, I will take some proper pictures of the flies so that you can have a look and see what's been created. So there we go. I've created my thorax, and all I've done is I've adapted the use of the CDC. Let's just have a quick look at the comments. Get the dog in and steal some fur. I'm not so sure the dog will be very pleased. He's on steroids for an infection he's got in his tail at the moment, so he's not best pleased when we go near him at the minute. He's in the huff. So I'll just grab my hackle. Now some people like to strip one side of their hackle before bringing it down. It does make the fly look a little bit more professional, I suppose, but it's a waste of a good hackle in my opinion. I like to keep my hackles in their entirety. So I'll spin that around, and I'm going to work my thread in 2 or 3 times just to trap that feather into place, like so. Okay, next thing I'm going to do, now that I can see what I'm doing, is I'm going to whip finish. Now I've kind of gone over to using the whip finish tool for pretty much everything. It's set for parachute flies, which I just can't get on with it. I still use my fingers for that, but strangely enough, with other things, I'm lost without the whip finish tool now. So I'll just tilt that slightly so I don't cut away something that's I'm gonna need later. And then I can come in and remove the hackle. Now I'm just going to grab this hackling. As I say, I've only got a limited area to work with here, so I'm going to grab the hackling, and I don't think I'm going to need that for any of the other flies, so I'll push it to the back of my bench, and then I can come in with my scissors. Now, whether you're doing parachute flies with a poster, CDC, or you can use poly yarn, which I use mostly, it doesn't matter, because a lot of people get confused. They think the poly yarn's what keeps the fly afloat. That's not the case. It's the hackling, it's this wing, and I would treat my wing with some dry X, and then send it off for 24 hours before it goes into the box. So there's the first fly, the first dry fly if you like, from Brian's Materials. What do you think, guys? Is it decent? Do you think I could have done better? What would you have done with the materials that I've been given? I'd love to know. Please jot it down in the chat. Okay, first one out the way. I'll just put this on the vise so that you can have a... what I can't do yet is, unfortunately, I can't zoom into the fly. I've got a DSLR camera. I'm using a Lumix GH5 with a macro lens for this, and I just don't have the facility to zoom in and keep the fly in focus. But there we go. There's the first fly, a parachute fly. So I think what I'm going to do next is... let me have a look at what I've got to work with. So there's a wee parachute fly, and let me have a look. Yellow latex. Okay. Right, I'm not quite sure what to do with that. but I do want to try and incorporate it. Mastering the whip finish tool came as a great disappointment to the scrap man with the number that ended up in the bin. Nigel, I must have went through at least 10 whip finish tools before I realised that probably the cheapest one you can buy on the market was the one that worked for me. I watched loads of videos as well. I don't know why it took so long to learn, but the one that cracked it for me was Dave Downey did a tutorial on the whip finish tool, and I just found it easy to follow, and now I can't do without the whip finish. Well, I can do without the whip finish tool, but I choose to use it as much as possible. So I think for the next one I'm going to do the streamer. I think I'll do the streamer pattern. Let me just have a think. Have a look through the hooks. Right. I've been tying quite a few streamers up off for the river lately. So these packet hooks are on my table. I've got I love these hooks. So this is from Hanak. It's the 450 BL. It's size 10. Now they're called Jig Superbs, and with good reason. They're just absolutely amazing hooks. They're great for, once you've caught a fish, they're great for keeping hold of fish. So I'm going to couple this with a 3.5mm black tungsten bead, which again, I'm just using this because it is on my desk. I'll just get that on there, like so. So with these micro jig streamers, it's not micro, I mean size 10 is a fair old size for a jig hook, especially if you're looking to use it on the rivers. So first thing I'm going to do is I think I'll stick with a black thread on this occasion. And I'm going to just get that spread up and down the shank, try and catch it in. I don't like the bead moving about when I'm tying. It's inconsequential really. The bead can move freely up and down the shank if you don't mind it, but I like to just build a nub of thread in behind the bead just to keep it into place. So like so. Oh, and you might notice Brian very kindly sent me a pair of his scissors, so he started doing a range of tying tools, and I think there is a vise in the works somewhere along the line, so it'll be interesting to see what that looks like when he brings it out eventually. So as he didn't send me any marabou, thanks for that Brian, I'm going to use the what you would term as the waist part of this feather here. There's a few bits, and what I might do before I do that, what might be interesting is just to tie in, try and get the maximum value out of the materials. I'll take half a dozen strands of the crystal flash, slightly pink, and catch that in, and then I'll take away at least that much, so I've got a little bit of flash in the tail here. So if I grab the feathers here and just take away a bit of that, looks okay. So I'm going to first of all invert my vise, because you're not getting very much fibres from this. I'll come either side of the hook and I'll just catch that in roughly. And then from the other side here, I'm going to just grab the rest of the fluff. I mean, this very often would just end up in the waste bin, so it's good to get some use out of this. I mean, I've got a little bit less frugal with my materials, if I'm honest. You know, in the old days, certainly when I first started the channel, nothing ever got thrown away, everything got used all the time. I would sit and tie knotted pheasant tail legs and stuff to tie my flies. Now I seem to be inundated with folks want to send me stuff to tie flies with, so it just helps. It helps really, because I don't want to be wasting my time sitting knotting pheasant tails or blending dubbing. I want to be creating content for the channel, and of course for your enjoyment. Now I'm just going to damp down that. Now for some reason that bottom bit is not sitting particularly well. I don't know why. I seem to have got a loop in my thread. I'll just grab that, catch it and get it out of the way. That's better. Yeah, that's looking not too bad. I don't know how much of the tail's in the video actually. Let me have a look. Yeah, it's okay. So we've got that in. We've created our little tail. I think actually I'm not too happy with the amount of fibre in there. So what I'm going to do is grab another one of the feathers and just take again a little bit off the bottom here, just to bulk up that tail ever so slightly. I mean, these fibres, when they're wet, will go down to nothing. So just catch that in. So as the season, the trout season anyway, there's not much trout fishing left for me. Certainly on the rivers, I'll be very lucky to fit another session in. I think I've got one more AMFC from the boats to do, and then after that I'm kind of getting my stall set out for the grayling season, which I thoroughly enjoy. I think if everything had to go and I was only allowed to go and fish for one thing, the grayling would be the species. I absolutely love them. Right, so I'm going to incorporate wire into this one. I've got some silver wire here that I'm going to use. And I'm going to catch that in. Now I'm just wondering whether this might be the chance to incorporate a little bit of the blue dubbing. I didn't think I was going to be, I mean that is a challenge. You know, let's be honest, using blue dubbing in anything is a challenge, unless it's a salmon fly or a damsel maybe, but yeah, I definitely want to use it. I want to try and use everything. So again, I'm going to come back to my what's left of the feather that I was working with there, and I'm going to just use that as, no I'm not, it's not going to work. What have you done to me, Brian? What have you done to me? No, we've got some pheasant tail here. So Brian kindly sent me some pheasant tail. I'm going to work with that. Let's see if I can find a good bit. Catch that in. Pheasant tail's a very versatile material. It can be used on dries. In fact, it can be used on probably every fly that you can conceive of. Great material. Let's hope pheasants never become endangered and the price of them goes through the roof. So I'm just going to get a few extra turns in behind the bead here, and then I can catch that in my hackle pliers. And again, I'm just going to use the rotary function on the vise to get this body down. I've managed to leave myself a bit of a chore there with the ends of the pheasant tail, but there we go. And I'll just catch that in there. Now, normally I would risk pulling it and just snapping this away, but I'm not taking any chances today. There we go. So I've got my pheasant tail base of a body down, and I'm going to come back to the nice hackling that Brian sent me. So that looks nice and small. I'll catch that in there. I'm going to come back, so I've come back about 2 or 3 millimeters. I don't want the palmering on this fly to go all the way back. I need to make some room there, and then I can grab my wire rib, just tuck that out of the way, and then come up the body of the fly. Now, a lot of people, when they're learning to fly tie flies, whichever way you want to put it, it's prescribed. You know, there's certain patterns that are classics, and you're told that you must use this and you must use that, and that's good. If you're going into the fly tying hobby, I certainly would say doing it by the book's a good thing. Now, the thing is, if you're going into fly tying because you want to create something specific for yourself to go fishing, then you definitely want to be playing about, and not only that, using the materials you've got. I mean, if you wanted to go and tying classic salmon flies nowadays is almost impossible for a couple of reasons. You can't get the feathers anymore. They're just simply not in existence. And the other reason, of course, is that they're prohibitively expensive. Getting a hold of them is difficult, and they cost a lot of money. And if you're not a salmon angler, and I'm certainly not a salmon angler by any stretch, it can become really prohibitive. So I'm going to risk some of the blue dubbing. I've just taken a little bit out of the packet. I think actually, I don't know what it is. It looks like it might be CDC dyed blue, but we'll never know. So before I crack on with that, there is some more feathers in the bottom of this pack, which I quite like the look of. I'm going to just strip that away, and I'll just catch the tip with my hackle pliers. Again, I'm not quite sure what this feather is. Maybe some of you real fly tyers can tell me. It's an interesting looking feather, but I'm not sure what it's called. Okay, I will pause in a second to answer any questions or view your comments. So capture that in like so. So let's have a look. Where are we? Hi Mark, well, I hope it's going quite well. You're a better judge than me. You went for the easy cull, Chris, because you're lazy. Well, I didn't go for the easy cull because I didn't think of it, if I'm honest. But it would have been easy, wouldn't it? Pheasant tail, bit of cull de canard. You'd have got a decent dry fly out of that. size of hook is that? Looks like a 10. Sorry, John. Are we talking about the jig hook that's in the vise currently? It is a 10. If you missed it at the start, I'll just show that up to the vise. Size 10. I like to have when I'm tying jig style flies, I like to have a fairly big hook in the vise. I like the gape on these. They're just amazing. Anything comes near it and it almost hooks up. So what we're going to do is we're going to now hackle round with a bigger feather. So I've got this palmer in on this to support this bigger feather that's coming in now. If I can find my hackle pliers, of course. Not them ones. There they are. Nope. Stop. I nearly blew it, didn't I? Because I was going to use the blue. So before I bring that hackling round, we're just going to get a little bit off this blue dubbing in. When I was arranging this with Brian, and if it's popular, I might try and ask another few fly tyers if they were willing to give the challenge a go. It might be something that gives people a bit of entertainment on a Sunday. I mean, the tying season is coming, you know, winter's not far away now, and I feel it of a morning when I'm walking the dog. So basically, I put down a bed of dubbing just in at the head, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring my feather. It's not behaving for me. I'll just bring it out and try and get them fibres working for me. Yeah, it's not as quite a soft hackle as I'd hoped. Well, I'm going to work my thread down, walk that into place. I know it looks like a hot mess at the minute, but don't worry, it's going to come good, folks. Just bear with me. So the blue's maybe a moot point with this fly, looking at it now, but once the fly's wet, that will come through. So I've just managed to snip the stem, and what I'm going to do is just ease that back. There's a few fibres, erroneous fibres, that are refusing to play the game. I'm going to come in and lock that down. So I've only got one more flag to tie after this, but I've not used some of the materials which is not sitting well with me. I'm going to have a think and try and incorporate some of the materials that I've not used yet. So we've got that. Just come on my toothbrush, help them feathers go back. Now the thing about these micro streamers, what you're after is you're after that movement. It's, you know, these are not designed to be dead drifted. They can be dead drifted, but they're not designed for that. They're designed for movement, and that is just not sitting the way I want it. So to alleviate that, I've got some floss here. It's hot pink, ideal for grayling, and I'm just going to put a hot pink collar on. Now, the reason I'm putting the hot pink collar on, the reason I'm doing most things today, is because it's at hand. It's on my desk, and it's easy to just reach for something. So I've got a few wraps down, and I'm going to risk just pulling that away. Now, what I like to do when I'm finishing these flies that I've put collars on, I always like to coat the floss initially with a bit of UV varnish. And then what I'm going to do is bring my whip finish tool in, 1, 2, 3, and then with my scissors take away the excess. Then I can cure that first layer if you like, and then to finish off the fly I like to go over it again. So it's not an in-your-face pink, it's a kind of salmon pink colour, but it does give it a little hot spot there just to trigger point, if you like, for the fish. And I suppose the other thing was the flies that we're tying, you've got to be confident that they're going to catch some fish, and I'm fairly confident I would get a trout or two with that. And again, with the dry fly, I'd be more than happy to fish this and get a few fish. So we'll just take that out the vise, and I will come back over to the computer to see if there's any comments. So, how are we doing? Are we enjoying it so far? Yep, the blue dubbing, it might well be, Mark. I was a little bit worried that I wasn't going to be able to incorporate it, and I've still got the blue ribbon to go, which I'm kind of at a loss at the moment, but hopefully you know, something will come to me. Yeah. How would you fish that fly? Are we talking about the jig fly, I take it, Daniel? So there's a number of ways I could fish that fly. I could fish it on just a normal floating line like you would normally, and just short, sharp pulls, jig it back, or you can fish it on a Euro nymphing rig across a current, just again using your rod to jig it back, and I'm sure that would work a treat. Nigel, you could nearly get away with that fly as a sculpin. Yeah, I suppose. Very small. I mean, it's difficult to see, get perspective on the vise when you're using a macro lens. It is quite small. I would say it's no bigger than 1.5 inches, but you can make them bigger, you know, depending on what you've got. I'm very limited with the materials that I'm using today, and hence that's why it's called a challenge. Would you invite Davy McPhail to do this with you? To see the Scotsman tying would be awesome. I do know Davy, and I'm happy to ask him whether he wants to participate or not. It's a different matter, and I think I'll ask and see what he says. I mean, I know a few of the boys that do YouTube, obviously, and I'm happy to ask them if it's a popular idea. You know, a blind bag of materials, and you come up with the 3 flies. It's a good idea. Yeah, the Kingfisher pictures, James, they came from a Welsh angler called Terry Bromwell. He was kind enough to frame the pictures up for me and give me them, so they're pride of place on the wall behind me. Okay, so we've done our dry fly, we've done our streamer, and I suppose a wet or a nymph fly. Now, looking at the materials I've got, it's going to be very difficult to do a wet fly. I haven't really got much material. I mean, I could tie a couple of wet flies, and I might try and tie one at the end just to see if we can do it. But at the minute, I'm going to tie a nymph, I think. So let me just grab. Right. Okay, so I've got a Hanak H330. This one's at size 8. Oops, I've just shown it up to the vise, and guess what? There's no vise on the screen, but the vise is there now. So I'm going to put one of these Hanak 330 barbless at size 8. Now, No, I'm not, because that's not the hook I want. I really want the black version of that. Let's have a look. Bear with me, folks, while I try. Here we go. Size 10. I've got, this is the hook I wanted, but I did want size 8. But I've got size 10 and I'm going to just suck it up and work with it. So let's get one of these size 10 hooks out. They're not very big, which is going to make this quite a challenge. So what I want to do is get some tungsten beads. 8 tungsten beads, should I say. .8, that'll do the job. So this is a Hanak 2.8 bead. I'm just going to get one out of the box, and I just want to try it before I put the tungsten bead box away. I just want to try the bead, see if it's going to be, it's a little small for the size of hook. So I'm going to put that back and try and find a bigger one. Let me show you what we got here. 3.3. It's gold, which I'm not a big fan of gold beads actually. I like the more muted earth coloured sort of dull patterns, black and grey. I like copper as well, but that is going to work just fine. So I've coupled the the 310 buzzer hook with a 3.3mm gold tungsten bead. Now I wanted to use the remainder of the materials that I've not used yet, and the reason I'm scratching my head is I'm not quite sure what I'm doing. So, but I'm going to give it a go. Right, let's see. Again, as it's the black nickel finish, I'm going to come in with a little bit of super glue onto my hook shank, and this time I'm going to be using the white. Again, it's the sumo thread. I think this one's at 50D. I'll get a little bump of thread at the front here just to stop now. This fly might end up being a wee bit wild because of the materials I'm going to be using, but we'll see what we can do. Right, will this work? So the ribbon, remember what we had in the box, the ribbon. What can we do with this? I suppose it could do as you could work it as a shell back maybe. Tell you what I'm going to do is I'm just going to try cutting a length of it. So I've now got just a small amount, and then just trying to see the makeup of this. So if I come in and just all I'm doing is I'm getting a couple of millimeters near the end. I'm going to just rip out all the horizontal fibres. And I've got what could be construed as a rib, a suppose. Now, this is one of these flies when it's finished. Would I be able to catch a fish on it? I'm not so sure, but I'm going to give it a go. So I'll catch that in on the shank. Please feel free to slag me off. A blue rib, it's not ideal. I'm going to come right down the bottom. So there we go. Now, another thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to incorporate a little bit of this yellow latex. Now, I suppose this could be used as, I don't want to use them scissors, could be used as a dry fly body, mayfly time maybe. But I'm just going to take a small amount from the sheet and I'm going to catch that in. Now, as I said, it's going to be getting a wee bit wild. Let's just see what we can come up with. Now I'm going to have to get quite a bit of pressure on this. Brian did say he was going to make it challenging, and he wasn't wrong. I'm only looking for a couple of tons of this really, and then I can come down with my thread just to lock that into place. Oops, I nearly lost my grip on it there, which it won't matter, to be perfectly honest. I'm already hating this fly. I'm already hating it, but you never know. It might snag a greyling or two. Okay, and I think this might be the last thing that I've not used. So it's the clear latex. I'll just put that to the side. Yeah, clear latex. It's quite wide. What I'm going to do with this, again, I don't want to cut that with my good scissors. I want to get a 45-degree angle cut into this, like that. And I want the angle to be going away from the body of the fly. Just want to try and catch that in. Yeah, if you're just tuning in, it must be bizarre. You're going, I've tuned into a fly tying video. What's this idiot tying up? And I've got to be honest, I'm not very sure myself, but I do tie normal flies as well on occasion. Let's get that up there like that. So I'm using the yellow latex as a sort of butt, if you like. Although I'm sure I'll be the butt of many jokes after this one. And then what I'm going to do with I'm not putting a lot of pressure on the clearer stuff. I want to create that sort of segmentation with the latex. And as I come up, I'm going to try and just make the segments a little bigger as I get to the thorax area. Lots of bugs have a sort of thicker part as you get up near the thorax. Okay. Right, got that where I want it. Oops. Just tighten up the vise a little. Okay. Perhaps Davy McPhail will be a wee bit kinder to me if he's kind enough to agree to do this. Because this has been challenging. So I've got my my body in there. Now this might have been the bit, it was a bridge too far, the blue ribbon, but I'm going to give it a go. I'll just catch the end. I mean, in my head, this looked a lot better than this. It's not as bad as I thought it was going to be, to be fair. It's bad, but not as bad as I thought it was going to be. You've got to work with what you're given. That's the rules. So as I get near the top, hopefully I've given myself just about enough room to finish. And then if I grab that end, I can take that away. So what do we think? Is it a total loss? It needs to go in the bin, or you know, could work, might work. Shoulda, woulda, coulda. Okay, so let's see what's left on this bench, which is now a complete. Yeah, don't say that word, Lindsay. Yeah, you know what I meant. It's an absolute midden. So I'm now just grabbing a CDC feather, which I was given, and I'm going to find my clip. And then I can just off camera here, you won't be able to see, I'm just taking the stem out. So basically I've got the CDC in my clip here. And a technique I love to use, if I can find, there we go, is splitting the thread. If you watch any of my long content, if you watch any of my long content videos, you'll know that I'm a great fan of splitting the thread. I just think it helps reduce the bulk, and using nano silk reduces the bulk anyway, but it's easy to split, he says, spending 10 minutes trying to split this. There we go. It's usually easy to split. And then I'm going to slip the clip in, like so. And what I can do is spin up my bobbin. I'll just take a quick look at the comments. It would, Daniel, it would on this particular occasion. Yeah, the size 8 I don't think fits in the gauge, but certainly the size 10 fits, no problem at all. Would the ribbon strip down to be like pseudo hackle? Yep, that's kind of what I've done there. I've lost the comment, sorry. Would the rib strip down? Yeah, so Mark, yeah, that's what I've pretty much done with the ribbon. A bit like pseudo hackle. That looks like organza ribbon. I've used it for Nymph's gills in colours black and olive. Hi Stuart, I hope you're well. It would really work under a dry fly. It needs to be a very big dry fly, Daniel. This is a fair old size, a 3 point, I've forgotten tungsten bead I put in it now, but it's a fair sized tungsten bead. It would need to be a decent sized dry fly. Thanks very much, Mark, that's very kind of you. So let's try and get this one finished off, and then I might, as I've got a little bit of time, have a crack at a wet fly. So all I'm doing is, with the CDC trapped in there, I'm simply bringing the feather up. Now, as it's got that blue body, we might as well come back to our blue dubbing, which, Brian, I'll be putting this right in the bin once I'm done. No, that's not true. I will keep it. You never know, I might have to tie a salmon fly at some point. So I've taken a little bit of dubbing out, a little blue, just to finish off the fly, and a blue nymph. If ever I do like a one of them, I don't know if any is that have followed the channel for a while. I did a video with Rhys Wadley on Linclue Edog, and we exchanged fly boxes for the day. I gave him 2 blue blobs, and now I'm getting my just desserts. But if ever I do a river challenge of a similar ilk, somebody's getting this fly in their box and just see how they go. So to finish off, I've added my dubbing, and I'm simply going to just get a little bit of super glue on, and then whip finish. Now, that's my three flies. As I said, I will be doing another one in a second, because I do want to try and do a wet fly. So please do let me know how you think I've done with the materials I had to work with. That's my nymph, and let's have a look. Glasses, I can't see a thing. Yep, lots of movement with the CDC. Mop flies, you're dead to me, Stuart, you're dead to me. You're very welcome, Daniel. I'm glad you're getting something out of them. So let's have one more. I don't know how long we've been going now. It must be a while. It feels like forever. But let's try one more. So I did say a wet fly. Now I haven't got that much to work with wet fly wise, but I'm going to give it a go. I'm putting a 200 Hanak H200 barbless hook into the vise. I'll just get it into the jaws. The discerning viewers amongst you might notice that my jaws are looking shiny and new. This is the new colour scheme for the F&F Talon vise, and Kevin was kindly enough to send me the new vise jaws. There was nothing wrong with the old ones, but it's always handy to have a spare set, I suppose. So I've put in the 200 barbless, and I'm going to go back to, my black thread. My wife made me a delicious sausage butty this morning. It's just repeating on me. We'll add a little bit of super glue. And get a couple of wraps of thread. Now in the winter I'm hoping to do a little bit more of the live streaming sort of thing, and Sunday afternoons might not be the best time. You know, people are out with their families, or they're fishing or doing whatever. So what I'll be doing is probably like a Thursday night or a Friday night perhaps. I'll do like a dram and a fly. So I don't know about you all. You might be all teetotal and I'm speaking to the wrong people, but I enjoy the occasional whiskey, and what I'll do is I'll do some flies and I'll talk about the dram that I'm having while tying. Right, let's have a looky. So I think what I'm going to do, oh, there we go. I'm going to add in a tail, and I'm using some floss here. So that was just about permitted within the rules. Flosses, threads and wires. And I'm going to catch that in. I'm folding it. I've got it 4 times over, 8 times over, and that should do for this particular size hook. And I'll just so I've been putting out quite a lot of videos this month, especially. I'm putting a real hard drive in to reach 20,000 subscribers on YouTube, and once I've got to 20,000, there's various companies that have sent me some bits and bobs that I can give away to subscribers as a wee bit of a celebration for reaching 20,000. So hopefully, if you're watching and you haven't subscribed, please click that little subscribe button for me, and come maybe another month's time when I've reached 20,000, you'll be in the pot for a chance to win some of the prizes. Okay, so for the body of this fly, I think I'll grab some of this, but I'll need a rib first. There's that leftover rib that I tied in earlier. Just catch that in. And then I'll grab 2 or 3 strands of this, and I'm going to catch it all the way along the body just to help with keeping the width of the body. It's the same with any material that you're tying in. You want to tie it, unless you can't of course because it's too thick, but you want to really try and tie the length of the body, and it just helps with keeping it nice and even. Now I've chosen the wrong thread for this fly because it's taken a wee bit of time to get that coverage, but there we go. I'll bring my thread to the front of the hook and get a few extra wraps in there. Now I'll grab the crystal flash. That's somebody at my front door, but I'm sure my wife can deal with it. And that's creating not too bad a body. Now what I'm going to have to do with this though is I'm going to grab a few more, and I'm going to go backwards over the fly just to make sure I get that coverage. And that's creating quite a nice body there. And I'm fairly happy with that. I'll just trap that in. And please do look out for Brian's videos on his part of the challenge. Sadly, if you're just joining me, his live stream was taken down by YouTube, which was a great shame, but he is going to do some subsequent videos with the materials I sent him. So I'm going to grab this. There's a lovely barred section just here that I want to use, so I'm going to just take that away. I do enjoy tying wet flies in this sort of style. I find it very relaxing. It's quite creative. You know, you're not you know, don't get tied up with it. You can buy all the books you like and copy all the patterns you want, but there's nothing quite like coming up with something off your own and taking it away down to the river or the loch and fishing it. So last one, and then I'll grab my wire. And so YouTube it's a great resource. You know, you can learn so much. There's not much you can't type into YouTube and find the solution to your problem. And when I first started doing this, and even now, I'm still very grateful for any advice from people that know better than me, and there's plenty of them. And one of the bits of advice I received was about how I was palmering my flies. So the wire, I used to go counterclockwise with it, and a few people had said to me, well, actually you should be chasing the hackle with your wire, and I have started to do that, but to be honest, I'm not so sure that that's really, is that a hard and fast rule? What do you think? Do you think when you're palmering a fly, your wire should be chasing the hackle, or do you think it should go counterclockwise? Let me know. Yeah, it's looking not too bad. Now, of course, the problem I've got having very little materials here is how am I going to put a hackle on the front of this fly? So I have got these feathers here. I'm going to get them all out actually, just see if there's some better than others. That one looks not too bad. So I picked out a feather here. It looks quite big. I want a big hackle. This is going to be the front hackle. It's not going to be a back hackle. But with hackling on wets, what I like to do is create a resistance behind the main hackle. And the reason for that is you don't want the fly to completely collapse in the water. So I haven't got the luxury of having secondary feathers, so what I'm going to do is the old trick with the CDC. I'll just grab one of my CDC feathers, pop it in the clip, like so, and then I can once again split my thread. Not quite sure how this one's going to turn out, but probably a lot nicer looking than that nymph I've just tied. I'll just split the thread like so, and then I can catch in with the clip. I'm going to spin up, and while that's spinning away, I'll have another quick look. Yeah, Stuart, whatever makes you sleep at night, pal, they're not for you, malt flies. Yep, I do like a dram now and again. In moderation, of course, Mark, in moderation. I always go counterclockwise. Ah, okay, Daniel. Find it lasts longer on the fly. Okay, so let's get this bit in to incorporate it into the fly. I like CDC, it's a very versatile material. You know, I remember when people started using it on nymphs and took a bit of an abuse really. I don't know why, but the CDC traps in air bubbles when fishing a nymph really slow on a river. it can be very, very effective. Okay, so that's that, and then the next thing is the main feather. I'm not happy with this, but it's what I've got, and I'm going to use it. So the trouble with this is the barbs on this feather they're quite stiff. They're not. It's not like a partridge feather or a hen hackle. I don't know what kind of feather it is actually, but I'm going to just ease out what I can, and then I'll just leave myself a little handle to tie in, like so. And then I'll grab my hackle pliers, hopefully it'll behave a little bit better. I don't like it. Yeah, I've seen lots of Brian's capes, and he's got some beautiful stuff, but he sent me this. I'll be having a word with him later. Okay, let's wrap that round. I think that'll do it. Just going to come in front. The trouble is with this particular feather, it thickens up real quick. So the stalk here, it gets really thick, and it makes it difficult to wrap it. So I've got that round there like so. And then I'm not going to risk, because it's so thick, I'm not going to risk pulling it forwards. Just come in with the tips of my scissors and take that away. And I can cover it up with my thread wraps. And this is one of the beauties of using sort of the GSP type threads. I'm a big fan of them. Some people don't like them. They don't like the fact that they're slidey, or they split, or for whatever reason they're not fans. I think they help you in a multitude of ways. You're able to split thread to create a dubbing loop, which is fine in diameter, and you can get away with adding more thread wraps, where with normal thread you might well have been a bit more restricted. So let's get my toothbrush in to open up them fibres, and then once I've put some Solaris onto the head of the fly to finish it off, we'll have a recap on what we've tied with Brian's materials. And there we go, there's a little wet fly using the materials that were sent to me. So I suppose thanks very much, Brian, for taking part in this kind of mental idea. I think some people have quite enjoyed it, so I know a lot of your followers said that they quite enjoyed the format. Now, Brian lives on the other side of the world. It's probably the middle of the night where he is, so I'm not surprised to not see him in the chat. I set an alarm to get up at 1 in the morning to watch his piece, and I'm glad I did, because that's now no longer available to watch. So let's see, I got sent some Crystal Flash, a pink colour, which I've used. I got sent some CDC, which I've used. I got sent some blue dubbing, which I've used sparingly. I got sent some of this blue ribbon, which I've managed to incorporate into the fly. I got sent some pheasant tail, which I've also used. I got sent the yellow latex and the clear latex strips, which I've managed to incorporate. And what I really liked actually, and I will have a play about with these because I've never used them before, is the golden stone turkey feathers. They look like an excellent material, and I can see them making really nice buzzers as well. But I'll have a play about with them maybe in future videos. And I think that was it. No, the feathers. I got sent some feathers which I've used both off. So I'm fairly pleased with the flies. I'm not so sure about the blue nymph, but let's have a quick look at what we've created. So the last fly off the vise, if you like, was this kind of traditional wet fly. I'd like to have had maybe a different kind of hackle at the front, but as you can see, it's not too bad. I think it would catch fish, to be fair, anywhere. It'll take wild brownies, it'll take stalked rainbows, but that'll work. So let's go in reverse order. And this one, the wee anomaly, if you like, I'm not sure. Would it catch fish? I think if I was lucky enough to get first run through on the grayling, it might take a grayling or two. And I've used what was given, and I think, yeah, it might work. Who knows? But time will tell. I will give it a swim at some point. And we've got the streamer now. If I'd been sent something like a packet of marabou, this would have been a lot easier to do, and I would probably have done a streamer for the still waters rather than the river. But there's no reason why this wouldn't work on a still water, but it is primarily designed for the rivers and fishing with a Euro nymphing rig or a straight floating line, whatever you choose. I have used intermediate sinkers in the river with little mini streamers, and it works really well. But yeah, I'd be confident catching fish with this all day. And last but not least was the first fly of the day, which we did. It was a parachute style, and I'm fairly pleased with that. I think I'd be confident going out and taking fish on this. So there's the 3 flies. Let me know what your favourite was. I think if I had to pick one, it would be the little streamer. I think if I had to go out and catch fish quickly, I would be fishing that little streamer pattern. But there we go. So let's just check out any last minute afterburners. Well, Mark, I hope I can get to 20k. It's been a long old journey, 6 years, but I am starting to feel confident that I will get there in the end. Any old JC lying on the floor? No, I'm afraid not, Chris. I have got a couple of JC cocks, but I find myself using them less and less. Goose bites are a cheaper alternative. Floss, even cheaper. You think the blue nymph will catch me fish, Daniel? Well, we'll see. Okay, if there's nothing else, folks, I am going to dial out in approximately 10 seconds. So any other questions before I go, please do let me know. Right, folks, I hope you enjoy the rest of your Sunday. And an hour and a half. I'm sorry I've held you up so long. Have a great day and stay safe. Bye now.